her last email didn't ask for sympathy. It said, "Keep going." That was always the promise. Welcome back to Phoenix Fortis. I'm Diane, and if this is your first time here, I'm so glad you've joined us. And if you've been walking with us for a while, tonight is special. This is our 20th story together. 20 voices, 20 journeys of resilience, loss, and rising again. It feels right that tonight's letter is about promises, the kind that bind us, the kind that break us, and the kind that carry us forward when we think we can't take another step. Today's letter comes from Clara, a woman who carried her grief through the gates of the happiest place on earth. She didn't go to forget her love story, she went to honor it. It's a story about promises, about the strange, sacred ways grief can bring two people together, and about how healing sometimes finds us on a park bench with music drifting down Main Street and fireworks exploding overhead. Dear Diane, my husband Daniel and I honeymooned at Disney World in 2001. We were barely out of college, still paying off the wedding and couldn't afford much, but we both knew we wanted that castle in the background of our first married photo. That trip started a tradition. Every year, no matter what, we went back. We called it our Castle Promise. Same weekend, same hotel, same photo in front of the castle. We even started collecting the same silly souvenir each time. Those over-the-top popcorn buckets they change every season. We had a whole shelf of them at home, lined up like trophies of our stubborn joy. Even when Daniel's work schedule was impossible, or when our son was little and money was tight, we made it happen. 20 years of photos, each one showing us a little older, a little grayer, but just as happy. In 2021, everything changed. Daniel was driving home from work when a truck ran a red light. He never made it home. Our son was already grown and living in another state. The house was suddenly unbearably quiet. When our anniversary weekend came around, I almost stayed home, but something in me couldn't break the promise, so I went alone. It was awful. Walking down Main Street felt like walking into a scrapbook where every page had a hole torn out, his absence staring back at me from every corner. I caught myself reaching for his hand in line. I almost turned to him to point out the silly hats in the gift shop. Even the smell of popcorn and the sound of the parade felt too sharp, like reminders that joy still existed but wasn't meant for me anymore. By the second day, I was ready to leave early. But as I sat on our usual bench by the castle, a woman asked if she could join me. She was in her late 70s, wearing a pink Minnie visor and holding a Dole Whip like it was the crown jewel of Disney dining. She introduced herself as Margaret. Within minutes, we were talking. She told me she'd lost her husband, Walter, 7 years ago. She had children, even grandchildren, but Disney was their tradition, and she came back every year alone to keep it alive. That day, she walked the park with me. She teased me for skipping the teacups. "What's the point of Disney if you don't spin until you're dizzy?" she said, already climbing in. She complained about the price of churros, but bought one anyway, breaking it in half to share. She wasn't polished wisdom. She was messy, stubborn, wonderfully alive. And somehow she made the park feel alive again. Before we parted, she gave me her email and said, "If you come back next year, I'll meet you here. Same bench." And we did. Every year after that. Margaret became my Disney compass. She reminded me it was okay to laugh again, to ride the teacups, to wear the ears without guilt. She once told me, "Honey, I don't come here to sit in my sadness. I come because this is where Walter laughed the loudest. Why would I give that up?" After 4 years of this quiet, beautiful friendship, I didn't get her usual pre-trip email. Weeks later, I found it sitting in my spam folder. It said, "Clara, I won't make the trip this year. My health has turned and I'll be with Walter soon. But you keep going. That was always the promise." This year, I went back one more time. I stood on our bench, mine and Daniel's, and now mine and Margaret's. The fireworks started. I looked up at the castle, whispered goodbye to them both, and let the music and light wash over me. And in that moment, as the sky exploded with color, I realized I wasn't standing there alone anymore. Clara, thank you for your letter. What a gift. Your story reminds us that grief is not something we outgrow. It's something we grow around. When Daniel died, you carried your love into Disney not as an escape, but as a lifeline. And then, when Margaret appeared, visor, churro, and all, she didn't replace your Daniel. She didn't erase your pain. She simply sat beside you on the bench. Sometimes that's all it takes. Not someone who fixes the silence, but someone who shares it. There's a kind of holiness in sitting shoulder to shoulder with another human being who knows loss and doesn't flinch from it. That's when grief becomes bearable, when it doesn't echo in an empty room, but settles into a space where someone else is breathing beside you. You and Margaret built a second castle promise together, not about photos or fireworks, but about friendship, resilience, and carrying those we love into our joy. To our listeners, grief will always try to convince us that we're alone. But the truth is, none of us sit on those benches by ourselves forever. Sometimes it's a friend, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's even a stranger, quietly carrying the same kind of loss. If you're carrying a promise for someone you've lost, keep carrying it. Because one day, that promise might bring you to a place or to a person who helps you remember that healing isn't about moving on. It's about moving forward. And here's a hard truth. The promises we make to the people we love will break us if we treat them like chains. But if we carry them like lanterns, they'll light the way forward. Clara's castle promise didn't end under the fireworks that night. It continues in every step she takes forward, carrying both Daniel and Margaret in her heart. And tonight, as we close this 20th story, I want to thank you, our listeners. 20 times now, you've trusted me with your stories, your letters, your pieces of resilience. Together, we've built a circle of voices, and that circle proves we are never truly alone. So, wherever you are tonight, whether you're standing under castle lights or simply sitting quietly in your own corner of the world, may you feel the glow of connection, the same way Clara did standing under the fireworks, and know you're never alone. We'll be back soon with another story of resilience, love, and the quiet ways we're reminded that we are never truly alone. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, keep rising.